One. Hi and good afternoon. This is Bradley Chapman and welcome to Raw Business TV. And it's welcome from a dear friend and member, Michael Pace. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Brad.
Good afternoon. Listen, we're broadcasting in the office today, so there's lots of commotion. I'm really pleased to be joined by Michael. He's travelled a really long distance today. He's come all the way in from Bristol, so it's very, I really appreciate it, Michael coming all the way across. Michael Page is an accountant, and as a start-up business, we all need accountants, don't we? Without a doubt. So I'm really pleased to have an accountant online today. We're going to be talking about, well, Michael's going to be talking about writing the best business plan in the world. Now, of course, before we go on and talk a little more about Michael, I'm going to just do the introduction for Raw Business, which I normally do, just to explain who we are. Of course, Raw Business, we are a business and entrepreneur networking company. We have thousands of members who are becoming more and more connected every day, and we offer you guys a mixture of marketing, advertising, and networking for your company. And of course, we publish a leading business magazine called Raw Business Magazine. Now listen, we're no different than you guys. We are learning from our mistakes and we're overcoming adversity to reach success, and it's a great journey for any entrepreneur to go through. I'm just going to lower my camera speed, so just bear with me 1 second while I do that, please, to make sure you're getting an efficient image. And there we go. And of course, membership to the Raw Business Network is completely free, and we're just chasing a dream, you know, just like the rest of you guys. And in chasing that dream, you need strength, you need support around you. One of the most important parts of your business, and it's very important, and as entrepreneurs, and me speaking specifically, we underestimate the value that an accountant can bring to our businesses every single day. And in terms of accountancy, I'm just going to flick on to our first slide, which introduces Michael Page. Michael runs an accounting firm based out of Bristol, and after we've done the presentation, we're going to give you full contact details. Telephone numbers on the screen there right now, but we're going to give you the website address, email, contact details after Michael's done the presentation. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about accountancy very quickly before we go into Michael, and I'm going to talk about two different types of an accountant. I've had both experiences. I've had a really great accountant. And equally, I've had an accountant that perhaps didn't assist me where he could have done and done the things that he should have done to help me move my business forward. Now, I think accounting's changed. I think a lot of accountants that are now coming forward with business networking, they come out of the sort of traditional bean counters and they're becoming more modern. When I say more modern, they're getting involved in networking, getting involved in events, and they're doing more than what an older style accountancy practice might have done, which I understand you do, because you do lots of events now yourself.
I do lots of networking. I'm involved with the Federation of Small Businesses, so that's something that we do in Bristol every month in terms of running seminars. Coming back to that main question about what you can get from an accountant, I think we have an area that's called compliance work, which means that we simply doing your annual accounts for you, a tax return, that's it. You want nothing further from us. Do you want us to receive as little money as possible every year? And some people want that. I'm not that sort of accountant. I like to get close to my clients. I have this theory that I call accounting by walking about, which means I like to get out and see my clients, understand what they are doing, and when you're there on their premises, you can pick up things that you wouldn't get to pick up if you were simply dealing with them remotely.
Sure.
But yeah,
but it is a modern way, isn't it? And the guys that are now moving their accountancy business forward, they have adopted this modern approach, and I found that over the last 6 months, and it's really encouraging because I think it's dispelling the myths that accountants are just bean counters, as opposed to somebody like you're saying that's actually really taking an interest in the business, which does give you a great understanding.
I think they're all with the jokes about accounting being boring, and unfortunately a lot of it is. So if you are just doing the bean counting, all you are doing is adding stuff up and taking stuff away. And let's face it, accounting systems these days, spreadsheets, they do all of that for you. So if that's all you're good for, then, well, yes, you need to understand the tax rules, etc., etc. A lot of the software does that for you. So where we add value is by helping you with your planning, helping you with your business strategy. And also part of what tonight's talk is going to be about is helping you with the implementation of the planning.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm not going to share the screen anymore. I was going to tell you a couple of stories, but I don't think there's much point. I should pass over to the man in question. But just before Michael starts, I do want to say thank you very much. I know you've come a long way. I'm really humbled, actually. that you've come such a long way.
It's a pleasure.
And listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's webcast. If you're viewing the webcast live, again, with the webcast player, you can increase the size of the screen. You can also see the notes on the screen. If you've got any chat questions you want to pose or send across, then please do so. And of course, if you're viewing this as an archived webcast in our archive section, then you will have seen the webcast after the live day. But in any case, everything that's contained in tonight's presentation will give you more nuggets to help you move your business forward. It's my great pleasure to introduce Michael Page for this evening's webcast on writing the best business plan in the world. I'm going to jump it out of the screen now and let Michael take centre stage. It's his first time on the webcast, but not his first time speaking, as you can tell. I'll come back on at the end of the webcast and we'll have a little bit of banter and talk a little bit more about what Michael's discussed. But in the meantime, Michael, it's over to you, sir. Enjoy the show.
Right, thank you, Brad. Let's try and centre myself up beautifully. In giving this talk, I'm going to use 3 very simple acronyms. I like acronyms because they're a very simple way of remembering things. My 3 acronyms are going to be MAD, spelling MAD, MAP, spelling MAP, and MAP, spelling MAP. So that's a typical account, and I've got the opportunity of using 9 letters, and I've only used about 4. Firstly, I like to prefix this by saying you must be mad to run your own business. Now, that is not to be rude to you. It is something that came to mind in the last couple of years when I was talking to a client whose businesses didn't seem to be going as well as they ought to. And the answer came to me all in a flash, really, how to put it to him very succinctly. And I said to him, what is the role of the managing director? Explain it to me in 3 words. And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, your role is to manage and direct. So everything I say this evening is talking to you as entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs and saying, look, this business plan we're going to talk about, you take responsibility for that, not Mike the accountant or your friend who's the action coach, the business doctor or whatever. You take responsibility for your own business. So your role is to manage and direct, M-A-D. You must be mad. Okay, MAP. The way I look at it, and I've been doing business plans for an awful lot of years, there are 3 basic areas that we need to get right, and also the connectivity between those 3 areas. The M stands for marketing, everything to do with the marketplace. The A, as you might have guessed, stands for accounts, and accounts includes all sorts of management information, which brings us on to the P for the plan. So with my crib notes in front of me, I'm going to run through that. And I'll just say at the outset, the crib notes I'm working off, I'm going to be putting up in such a way that I think you can probably email me and I can send you a PDF of my notes for this evening. Right. Firstly, what are we trying to do when we run our business? Well, we're trying to come up with the idea of a good or service or product, something that we can sell to a customer at the right price. And that sounds pretty damned obvious, but a lot of businesses will start off with an idea without testing the idea that somebody might actually want that. We'll ask our friends or our family if it's a good idea. Now, if your family want you to get a proper job, they'll say, no, that's a bad idea. Everybody else who loves you and doesn't want to hurt your feelings will say, well, that's a brilliant idea. So do some market research in the first place. Decide what sort of market you're going to be in. Is it going to be local, citywide, regional, national, international? That is going to decide how you're going to begin to put your marketing plan together. It's going to talk to you about saying, well, you need to do this or you need to do that. Bear in mind that, as you've probably heard before, everything that we do in business planning and business strategy comes out from very, very small words. How, what, why, when, where. There's a fairly modern idea that is called the marketing funnel. And the idea of this is to focus on your marketing effort and to say, I want to build up some sort of knowledge of me in the marketplace. I don't want somebody saying, I've never heard of you, or what is it you're trying to sell. You're going to work your way through that marketing funnel to build awareness of you, your brand, your product, to get somebody to think about it and somebody ultimately to make a purchase, give you some money for your product. And that's the only way that you are going to make some money. So, thinking a little bit about how we do that, there needs to be a marketing plan, but if I hop across to my A now for accounts, we need to sit and work out, are we going to be selling this for the right level? How many units do we need to sell to run a business or to make a success of our business? If I can put this to you in a fairly simple way, if you're going to run a sandwich bar, you might say to me as an accountant, look, I'm going to run a sandwich bar, what I want you to put in is turnover of £500 a day, or £1,000 a week, or whatever. And that would be the wrong way to go about it. In the old days, me as an accountant would have said, oh, that's fine, and what are we going to do? We're going to say, right, month on month, you'll grow your sales at 2.5%, yeah, that's fine. And after a year, this will happen, and that will happen. And I'll crunch all the numbers, and we'll say, my God, in 5 years' time, you're going to be a millionaire. But what we need to do at the outset is to say, no, hang on a second, let's just break that down. Let's say, in my sandwich bar, how many sandwiches do I need to sell? How many drinks do I need to sell? How many packets of crisps do I need to sell? I need to work out or know the margin out of each of those items. I need to know the footfall through the day. I need to be thinking, am I going to be open 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week? So in terms of actually working out what my product is, what my marketplace is, I'm already wearing my accountant's hat and my marketer's hat. Just want to touch on a couple of items here. Right at the outset, you need to be thinking about the message that is going out. Now, as an accountant, when I set up in business many years ago, it probably cost me an arm and a leg to get going, because this was the days before the internet. So I had to spend a lot of money on headed notepaper, on brochures, on this, on that, and advertising. Now, I've got the opportunity of investing not too much money in coming up with a brand, coming up with a website, coming up with an idea, and trying it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I can try something else. Bear in mind that in business, you've really only got two resources. You've got your money, and you've got your time. And the less money you spend and more of your own time you can use, the better. There is a sort of third resource, which is your family and friends, but you can't rely too much on that. But everything you're going to do in terms of marketing, you are going to want to see a return on investment for the time and money that you spend on your marketing. Now, I'm just going to hop across to the account side again. I'm going to put my accountant's hat on. When I talk about accounts, what your accounting system or your computer systems need to be able to tell you is what you are selling, what you are spending on your raw materials, what you're spending on your staff, what you're spending on your marketing, what you're spending on your advertising. You need to break down all that management information so you can see that the effort that you spend and the time that you spend is actually producing some profitable results. Use your accounting system to let your business speak to you. I was talking briefly to Brad just before this program started, and he was expressing some fear of accounts. And what I said to him was what I say to a lot of people. Accounts isn't a lot to do with just pure mathematics. It's a lot to do with the communication. It is your business saying to you, this is how I feel. So think of it in terms of language rather than complicated algebra, and you might feel a lot more comfortable with it. It is one of the reasons at the outset why you should maybe be talking to an accountant to say, look, I've got these ideas, I'm trying to take my ideas into a business plan, can you help? I think most people these days are learning about spreadsheets at school, so you should have the ability to, going back to my sandwich bar example, to say, I'm going to sell X sandwiches at Y pounds equals this per day, X drinks, X teas, X coffees, X crisps, and you can build up a grid where you can see, okay, I know what I'm selling, What are my cost prices for those? Okay, I can take it from there. I can work out my contribution per day, so I know what my footfall is going to have to be. I know what my margins are. I know what my margins are going to be. Have I looked at the competition though? Am I going to be charging more or less? Am I going for a niche market? Have you noticed that I keep hopping between marketing and accounting? The two you cannot separate. And I think the idea of this talk, calling it writing the best business plan in the world, one of the big pennies that dropped for me in the last few years was that when I used to write a business plan, I was isolated. I was nothing to do with the marketing plan. When the person who wrote the marketing plan did that bit of it, or at least came up with a marketing strategy, they were nothing to do with me. A client would talk to two different people, or maybe do it themselves, not actually look at the connectivity between the two. But you can't do a marketing plan without working on your budget, and you can't do your budget without working on your marketing plan. Be aware of your break-even point. Be aware how much you have to sell and what your margins are before you cover your rent and your rates and everything else. I'm quite fortunate. I have a home office. My overheads are pretty small, hence my very reasonable fees. But if I've got a high street shop or pub, my hairdresser, whatever, I can see that I need to take a certain amount every week before I break even. So just bear that in mind. You need to know those numbers. Work them out, use a spreadsheet. Don't use a calculator, because once you put the figures in, you forget what you've put in. Use a spreadsheet, set up some templates, something you can come back to. If anyone needs any help with this, feel free to drop me an email. Be mindful also that your business might take off a lot more slowly than you think it is going to. So build that into your plan. If you don't know what your overheads are going to be, if you don't know how much money you're going to spend, a very, very simple tip for a startup that I use is do what I like to do and sit in my office with my eyes closed, do absolutely nothing. And then you imagine what is happening in your business. You've got your eyes closed, it's like running a video. It's saying, who's coming into my office? Who's just on the phone? What do I need to deal with that? Well, I've got the phone, I've got the computer. Do I need a receptionist? Do I need this? Do I need that? By looking around the environment of the business that you are imagining, that gives you a much clearer idea of what you need to spend. Again, it's a fairly common fault that overheads are understated when people are putting together business plans. So, I'm going to move on to my last word now, or my third word, which is the P for the plan. Now, one of the great business writers, a chap called Stephen Covey, said, or wrote in his seven secrets of successful businesses, or something similar, said, begin with the end in mind. And that's always the idea. The idea of why we're going to call this a map, because we're going to go from A to B. That's what our plan is going to do for us. So begin with the end in mind. Visualize where you want to get to. Don't in your business plan have something that you might call a mission statement and use the words world class or anything like that. Just bear in mind what you want to do and have something that is reasonable and something that is sensible, and try and work out the route of how to get there. You would have heard of the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. If you're an existing business or you're a startup, list down what are your personal strengths and weaknesses. Look at your market sector. What are your opportunities? What are your threats? Going back to the beginning, are we going for a niche market? Are we going to try selling products on the internet more cheaply than somebody else? What's the edge we've got over our competition? It is useful, if you're doing a SWOT analysis, to do it with somebody else, because in all forms of business planning, bouncing ideas around is very, very useful. I often find in meetings with clients that sort of iterative and reiterative approach, that we can sit there for several hours just bouncing around ideas with what resources the client already has, and come up with some ideas and some strategies for the future that are very efficient, especially very cost efficient. What's going to go into our plan? The reason we're doing this plan is for us. It's not for the bank manager, it's not for anything else. The reason we need a business plan is because we've got a business. Fair enough, if the bank manager has said, I want to see your business plan, that's a second reason for it. But whatever you do, if you've got a lot of money tucked away and you say, I want to run a business, I've got enough money, I don't need to go to the bank, always do the business plan. I had a client that did this several years ago, who decided all on his own to go and set up a nightclub. Signed the lease, bought very expensive furniture, didn't take any advice until he worked out that he'd overspent, asked me to look at the numbers, and I worked out that on his footfall, he couldn't make any money, the predicted footfall. It did give me the chance to use a very old joke, which is, how do you make a small fortune running a nightclub? And the answer is, you start with a large fortune. Not very sympathetic. What else are we going to do with our plan? Well, we can spend too long planning. I think there is an issue that a lot of businesses don't plan, but we can find a little comfort zone where we say, I'm going to do some planning now, therefore I won't do anything else until the plan is completed. No. We can start doing something tomorrow. If we're thinking about a business plan, we can immediately start thinking about, well, what can I do? Bite-sized chunks. What can I do about contacting new businesses, getting on the telephone, getting involved in websites like raw business websites, getting my name out there, doing a little bit of PR, writing a press release, doing all those sorts of things. So don't let the business planning process slow you up until such time as you have a completed plan. Think about the future. Make sure that if you do start from here, you can get to there, and you've got enough capacity within your infrastructure, within your accounting system, within your office, whatever, to cope with that. And if you're going to run out of capacity, plan to increase your capacity before you get to the stage when you run out of time. Okay. Some fairly simple thoughts on the marketing side. The marketing plan is critical. On the accounting side, doing your budgets. Very simple way of looking at budgets is you're going to make some assumptions in running the business. This is coming back to our spreadsheet again. Those assumptions, how much I'm going to sell, how many at what price, that drives my budgeted profit and loss account. I make some assumptions about how quickly I'll get my money in. Not a worry if I'm an internet business where I want cash up front, not so much worry for me as an accountant because I'm on monthly charging fixed fees, etc., etc. But if you're giving credit to clients, then your credit cycle is something that is very important. If you're importing goods, that is something else that's very important. You're going to be paying a lot of money up front to maybe a factory in China before the goods are landed here and you can sell them. So have a good think about that working capital cycle and the timing of the funds. That will build your cash flow forecast for you. Then out of that, that will drive the balance sheet. So we've got an idea about the marketing, the accounts, and writing the plan. My second MAP acronym stands for My Action Plan. This is the idea that you take over the ownership of the plan. You might have been talking to somebody like myself, you might have been talking to some sort of business coach, but at the end of the day, it is your action plan. If you don't take ownership of it, as the proprietor of the business, the managing director, whoever, if you've got any staff, they're not going to go along with you either. So you take responsibility for it. Remember, you have to manage and direct. So, M for my action plan. Secondly, an action plan is nothing without action. And again, this is another big problem I have over the years with business plans. People who write a business plan, look at the numbers and think, well, that's brilliant. This time next year, I'll be driving that sports car. And they sit back and look and don't do anything. So an action plan has got to involve action. We talk about we need to be proactive in business, we need to be reactive in business. We need to be both of those, and if you notice the word active or action is in both of them. In making the plan, shall we say, action-friendly, there is another acronym you would have come across, and that's the goals that you want to get out of this. You've set your journey, you've broken the journey down into bite-sized chunks, and we call these SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. Again, you'd have come and seen this a fair amount. But think about that. Make your goals something that is attainable, something that is definite, something that maybe you can delegate, but you've got to be very, very clear about what you are going to do before you delegate it. So, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant to making a success of the business. We can have lots of goals that don't actually contribute anything, and they need to be time-based. Time-based is one of the reasons that I get involved, as I say, other business mentors, strategists, whatever you want to call us, get involved, because that it really does concentrate the mind. If you've got another meeting lined up at the end of the month to say, look, this is what we were going to try and achieve this week or this month, and this is what we've done. So getting those meetings diaried forward into the future and not shunting them does make a huge difference in achieving what your business goal says. I'm getting close to the end now. I'm going to give you another few quotes. This one comes from my son, who's studying history at the minute, war studies to be precise. And he gave me a lovely quote which says, "No battle plan survives first contact with the enemy." Now, if you think about your business plan, what's going to happen in the first week is you're going to say, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and do X, Y, and Z, and you'll get a few knockbacks, or you'll maybe not be going quite in the right direction. Well, don't chuck your plan out. Just refine that plan. Don't forget your plan is a living document. It is something that you should constantly be reassessing. So don't, with the first knockback, just change it. Just sort of bin it. Sorry, it needs to be changed. A good plan, this is another historical quote, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Anyone that looks at my website will say, my God, that could do with improving. I put my website together having heard somebody say, it's better to do a job badly than not do it at all. And I thought this was rather counterintuitive until I thought about my website I've been planning for the last couple of years, and I just hadn't got round to doing it. And I sat down that weekend and put my website together. And if somebody goes to it and doesn't like it, fair enough, but at least it's there and it does produce contact calls. If I didn't have a website, then nobody would be going to it and nobody would know about it at all. So a good plan today is better than a perfect one tomorrow. It is very easy just to procrastinate and say, right, well, I won't do anything till I've got my business plan together. Right. Okay, I've come to the end of my notes. I noticed that I finish off with the words, you may never have the perfect business plan in the world, but the best business plan is the one that is implemented. As I said at the outset, I've been reading through some of my own notes. If you want a copy of those notes, please just drop me an email and I'll forward you a copy. And at this stage, I'm going to say thank you very much, and I'm going to hand you over to Brad.
Fantastic. Okay, we're just going to both join back in the screen there. Listen, fantastic. I really enjoyed it actually, because it's the first time we've had an accountant on that's actually added some humour into business planning and accountancy, which is really great. So thanks for that, Michael. Yeah, listen, I think a few things I wanted to cover off here, just perhaps ask a couple of bits back and forth. Obviously, you know, you prefer to get more involved with your clients and you know, sort of work on a one-to-one relationship. And you said you like coming into premises that gives you a feel for the business. Did you have a background in something else before you went into accounting? Were there other skill sets you've brought to an accounting practice that benefit you today?
No. I must admit, I went into accounting straight from school, so the only previous experience I had was holiday jobs, like digging the roads and cleaning out the public toilets. I have audited home and overseas, so although I qualified in Bristol, I went off to work in Iran and Kenya and Somalia. So I've worked in some fairly exotic places. I've dealt with family businesses, and I've dealt with World Bank projects, central banks, etc., etc. What is interesting is that accounting is the same the whole world over. Business is pretty much the same, and as I touched on in the talk, looking at a set of accounts is just a business talking to you. I see it very much that a business is a separate legal entity, it's a separate legal person. I think what I have learnt over the years, and some of this I've learnt actually only in the last few years, was that we do tend to pigeonhole ourselves far too much. So going back to when I qualified, there was an awful lot of work to do in preparing a set of accounts because we didn't have all these tools that are now available. There were no calculators when I started off. Now we've got spreadsheets, accounting systems, everything else, so we really can add value now. We don't have to be just the technician. We can get alongside the business, and all those years ago you would have the friendly family solicitor, the friendly family bank manager, all these people that wouldn't change for years. Now we probably are the one point of contact that you will have year after year, rightly or wrongly.
But having a good accountant is like having someone quite involved in your business, because you do start to align your account. I've known situations where accountancy practices or the relationship between the accountant and the business has grown so much, and the business has grown, that the accountant that runs the practice has had to put like a part-time bookkeeper into a business, or assigned, and in some cases appointed an FD, where companies have grown dramatically. Do you have situations like that where you will spend more time with certain clients? Obviously, there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, I think I have different relationships with different clients, and certainly I want to have a say in their accounting system or their bookkeeping system. It's a very small business. You'll be looking at training the clients up to run their own bookkeeping, or I will get somebody else to come in and do it for them. I don't effectively sub it out in that I will introduce them to somebody else that can do it. I don't in that way try and make a margin from it. But I do call myself from time to time the FD in the filing cabinet, which basically means that from a smallish SME up to sort of some quite big sized multi-company SMEs, that I'm just on the end of a telephone, because quite often it is the ability for a client to phone you up and bat an idea around for sort of half an hour or so that is the big value added. So I will have some clients that I don't actually prepare the accounts for. They've got their own external accountants to do the compliance work, and I'll just be there for the business planning and strategy. But the core practice is doing everything for a client, or being involved in everything. But I think one thing to bear in mind that you've maybe touched on is the way that accountants have changed. You'll find that an awful lot of accountants these days, we are fixed price accountants. So what we'll do with a client is we'll say, look, if you want this level of service, we'll do your accounts, we'll do your tax return, you can phone me up whenever you like, you can ask me to pop round, and we'll agree a fixed fee every year. And that way, the client doesn't worry about phoning you up. It's not one of these horrible things that says, oh my God, he's hitting that stopwatch once again. So that's what we try and do.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Michael, what a fantastic guy. Really warm, really friendly guy. I'm really pleased to meet you actually face to face.
Well, it's been a pleasure to come here.
We've had so many different members across the network, and it's 9 times out of 10 they can remember my name, but I struggled to remember everybody else's name. And it's really nice to put a face to the name. And thank you so much for coming down. I'm going to give you some contact details now for Michael, because of course he's got a downloadable business document for you. Just a final thought before we go: a good accountant will help you grow and move your business to profitability. That is an absolute fact, and I'm sure that Michael will share my sentiments on that one. Contact details for Michael Page Accounting: 01179 586 123. That's 01179 586 123. Email for a copy of today's presentation PDF from Michael Page at mike@michaelpageaccounting.co.uk, and website, of course, that fantastic website, www.michaelpageaccounting.co.uk. Email once again, mike@michaelpageaccounting.co.uk. It's with great thanks to me for having Michael on board today. Next time on Raw TV, we've got Dave Millett. That's tomorrow at 3:30. Dave's going to be talking about telecoms, another interesting webcast on how to get the best out of telecommunications for your business. And again, from my point of view, everyday people achieve extraordinary things. My book's nearly finished. We're nearly there, nearly due to be published. So I'm quite excited about that. It's with great thanks myself for being joined today by Michael Page. Thank you so much for coming down. It's been an interesting one for me. Great accountant, great guy. I'm sure you'll agree. So it's a good day for me, a good day for Michael.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks.